With us now, IDF paratrooper in the reserves, Shahar. His unit was one of the first to respond to the October 7th attacks. Thank you so much, Shahar, for being with us. You said this is a generational fight. You are the grandson of Holocaust survivors. Your father fought in the Yom Kippur War. And now it's your generation fighting after the worst attack since the Holocaust. What's at stake here for you, for your family, for your country, for Jews?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me, Joe. And as I said, it's a generational war because we saw what happens when our enemies that say they want to destroy and kill us all live up to what they say. And I think it's best that we start believing them. And when they said they'll do October 7th, we didn't. I'm not sure we're ready. But now they say they'll do it again and again and again. So what's at stake is the Jewish entity in Israel. I think it's that big. It's not just Hamas from Gaza, it's also Hezbollah, it's Iran. They all say they don't want us there. They won't stop until they kill us all. And if this is the jihadist ideology, this radical one, we must believe them. So this is our only chance, and it's also our mandatory fight to make sure this never happens again. And, you know, we've never had such a big, hit since the Holocaust. And when we said never again, it's never been truer. So never again is now and always. And this is what's in stake.
Your unit was one of the first to respond on October the 7th. Tell us some of what you saw.
It was a combination of an apocalyptic and a horror movie inside of Israel. Everything was either on fire or burnt. You'll still see bodies on the streets, blood everywhere, bullet holes, bullet shells, things that you thought they were just burnt logs but happened to be burnt people that we learned later. Bodies of people that just have been mutilated, and it's just very, very hard to unsee these kind of things. People have seen the videos. What one can't describe is the smell of death that I will never be able to unsmell. And it's also one of the reasons that, you know, it's not just the numbers, it's the atrocities. It's all these raped women that have gone through hell before they were shot in the back of the head. It's these people who are burnt alive, or babies that are beheaded. I saw this first responder who came to us one of these first days after leaving a house in Kfar Aza, one of the small kibbutzim, the towns near the border, where he saw 22 dead babies, some beheaded, some burned, some tied together with the wire. These are the things we've experienced. So people need to understand they didn't just want to murder us all, they wanted to terrorize us so we'll be scared forever and just leave. But this is not who we are. We're not going to give up, we're not going to leave. We're going to ensure that our safety comes back to our streets. And by the way, if we're successful, and when we're successful, the safety will be back in their streets as well, because they will not live under a terrorist regime, Hamas. And this is why all those people that think they support the Palestinians when they go to the pro-Hamas rallies, they need to move to support us, because we're the only ones who can eliminate Hamas and bring the safety back to both streets.
So, Shahar, you have seen things that you can never unsee. You've experienced things that you can never live without experiencing them over and over again. We were talking about the hostages in a prior segment here. And, of course, last week, the world seemed horrified that 3 Israeli citizens surrendering to the Israeli army were shot and killed. Talk about the danger of hostages, and talk about what happened the day prior to the hostages being killed by the Israeli soldiers.
Yes, so this was the most horrible weekend since the beginning of the war, if you're asking me. These 3 people who went through hell for 70 days were so close to being released by the IDF. And what those soldiers did when they shot them went against the IDF rules of engagement, against the IDF rule of conduct, code of conduct, and against the IDF values. But as you're asking about the day before, we need to understand what these soldiers have been through. And 2 days before that, 9 of their peers and commanders, including the battalion commander, were killed in this neighborhood. The day before, these are the soldiers that have experienced being lured into a building while seeing a hostage, which happened to be a doll and a speaker with Hebrew voices, so they can be lured in and blown to pieces. They also saw terrorists who surrender almost in the same way. But when they went to get them, there were suicide bombers, and those soldiers died. So they were so tense in this neighborhood, fighting so many terrorists, hundreds, and they're gonna have to live with this for the rest of their lives.
So you were wounded, and you've been here in the United States for 5 or 6 days recovering. You're going back to Israel tonight.
Yep.
To rejoin your unit and fight again tomorrow and the next day, and God knows how many days. When you were here in this country, what was your sense of the support for Israel and the resistance to supporting Israel and support for the Palestinians among so many young people, just about your age?
I think on one hand, I've experienced support that I've never had before. On the other, I was walking the streets of New York City, wearing this pin, the New York City Israel-American pin. I used to live here before and wear this proudly. I still do. Now I'm scared to do so. I was speaking at an event where 1,000+ mob just came knocking on the doors, trying to get in, hitting police officers, yelling and cursing a mother of a hostage that only came to ask for her daughter to be released. I think something has changed since I lived here 7 years ago. Because what people don't understand, that this is not a gray area anymore. It's not Israel and the Palestinians. It's literally good versus evil. We're not fighting the Palestinian people. We are fighting Hamas. And when they support Hamas, which they believe represent the Palestinian people, they support ISIS, they support Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda. And what do these people in America, which used to be my friends and family, what would they expect us to do when Hamas says that they will do it again and again until they're done? What would they have expected your leaders to do if this was on your doorstep after 9/11 with Al-Qaeda? I don't think they will ask them to stop until they can ensure that these people can live in peace. And I'm not going to stop until I can go to sleep without being scared that someone's going to come in and rape my fiancé and shoot her in the back of the head before burning her both alive. I'm not going to stop, because we deserve to live in peace. We deserve a state of our own, this tiny beacon of peace in the Middle East. We deserve a self-determination. Yeah, the Jews are a strong people, but we're also a minority. And calling for the genocide of Jews is not, better than calling for the genocide of anyone else. Our lives are worth just as much as others, and raping a woman is just as horrible as raping any other woman. People don't understand that. And all of these words on social media, they used to be words. They turn into action. This world has become a more dangerous place. And lastly, when we fight in Gaza, we are the Israeli Defense Forces. We also feel like we're the Jewish Defense Forces, because it is scary to be a Jew right now across the world. What people don't understand, we feel that we're the first line of defense for the Western civilization, although some of them just don't get it yet. But they will, because they're already here. Their goal is not just to eliminate Israel, is to destroy the Western civilization. This is the radical jihadist ideology. This is who we're fighting. We are literally on the same side. So help us finish this and understand who we're fighting.
Yeah, this is Susan Page. Certainly no one, I think, expects Israel to stop defending itself. And obviously the events of October 7th were horrific and an existential threat. But I wonder if what you think of the argument from some friends of Israel that Israel needs to take more care in protecting Palestinian civilians, in protecting journalists, in acting in a more strategic and targeted way to avoid some of the cost we've seen to innocents in the Gaza Strip. Is that something, should the Israel military be doing something different to address those concerns? Are those legitimate concerns?
Yes, so thank you for raising this. First, I will say that we die because of our morality. My friends died because of our morality. And I would love for you to enlighten me and tell me and show me another military force that has done ever in history more than what the IDF does to protect the civilian population of the other side, that shares a map of the war with the safe zones and danger zones, that broke Gaza into 2,000 mini areas and tell people where it's safe, including the terrorists who now know where to go, that opens a humanitarian corridor for the Palestinian people in Gaza to be able to live to safety temporarily until we can destroy Hamas and they can go back to their homes. But we also need to protect this corridor from Hamas, who kill their own people while leaving because they needed them as human shields. We make tens of thousands of phone calls and text messages, and we throw hundreds of thousands of flyers from the air to tell people to evacuate before we attack. Our people on October 7th got no warning. Having said all of that, having said that we die because of morality, I hurt and I'm in pain on any civilian that lost their lives while being not related to this war. But who can you blame? Had Hamas let them leave to the safe area, no civilians would have gotten hurt. When they hold their kids in the air after shooting at us, what would they expect? And I can share so many examples of being in Gaza, of seeing civilians, and from these civilians, the terrorists, who, by the way, did not wear uniform. They don't wear uniform right now. They do have this uniform, but they want to hide besides civilian population. They also want to be counted as civilians when we kill them. Just come out of these civilians, shoot and kill soldiers. The soldiers don't even shoot back because we're not going to kill 100 civilians because of these two terrorists. So yes, we die because of our morality. And if Hamas was, truly caring for the Palestinian people, they will let them live to safety. They will fight us, soldiers, against this terrorist organization. This is what we would expect. So Hamas is to blame for any casualty of the civilian population, and yet we heard for this as well. But lastly, and sorry about that, you also need to understand who is a civilian. It was the UNRWA doctor that held a hostage for 50 days in their home. Is he not involved in terrorism? Those people who are not Hamas members but surrender to the IDF holding their Kalashnikovs in the air, are they not terrorists? Well, when you study in an education system that is radical jihadist, that educates you to become a shaheed, a martyr, well, many of them, even not a part of Hamas, this is what they believe in. So yeah, we're painful. Everything hurts us when civilians die, and we try to minimize that more than any other Western military force. But who can you blame for this? What did they expect?
Well, as we've said here from the beginning, since the attacks, for Hamas, when an Israeli soldier dies, or an Israeli dies, or a Jew dies, that is good news. For Hamas, when a Palestinian is killed in war, that's even better news. That's who they are. IDF paratrooper in reserve, Shahar, thank you very much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it.